Alright, so this is section 7.5, and we're preparing to solve logarithm equations, and before we can solve logarithm equations, we have to learn how to expand and condense them. So that's our learning target for today. We are going to expand and condense logarithms. Now to do this, we're going to learn some properties of logarithms. And we learned a lot of properties of exponents, and these are similar, but there's only 3 of them. So we have the product property first. Okay, so if you have a logarithm, and we're just going to call all these base b, but there's a product here. And sometimes you can make it into a product also. Then what we would do to expand this out is we would expand it out with addition. And this is similar to when we multiply exponents. We know we add the exponents. Or what I mean is when we multiply with the same base, we add the exponents. So this is similar. If there's a product right here, we can expand it out to 2 logarithms with the same base with addition, is what we're trying to do. Alright, now quotient property is if it's division, that's what a quotient is. So it'll look like a fraction. Then division expands out with subtraction. Okay. Just like when we divide with the same base, we subtract our exponents. Okay, so that one will expand out with subtraction. And then there's one more. It's called the power property. And if you have a log that has a number raised to an exponent here, then that exponent has to come down front when you do the log of it. Okay, so the n right here comes down front in front of the logarithm. And we're going to practice all of these in some examples. Now the first examples are a little bit different. They're just kind of a way to practice this. They're going to give you some decimal approximations to a few numbers. So this one is the log base 5 of 4 is approximately 0.861, and the log base 5 of 9 is approximately 1.365. We're going to use these to evaluate the logarithm. And we're going to use the properties that we just wrote down. Alright, so this one is a division problem. 4 divided by 9. So what we want to do is expand it out. And remember, this will expand out with subtraction. So the log base 5 of 4 minus the log base 5 of 9. And then we're just going to use these two numbers, since we know this equals 0.861 and this equals 1.35. We just substitute those in and we subtract them to get our final answer, negative 0.504. Alright, that one's pretty straightforward. Now this one is log base 5 of 36. So this is actually the product of 4 times 9. So the first thing I'm going to do is rewrite this as a product. Okay, now products expand out with addition. So it's very similar to what we just did, but that one expanded out with subtraction. And now we're going to substitute in the values they gave us at the beginning of the problem. And this time we're going to add them together. Alright, now we need to practice the product or the power property. So they have it written as 81. But again, I'm going to rewrite that 81 as 9 squared. Then I'm going to use the power property that tells me to bring that exponent down front. So I'm going to bring the 2 down front. Okay. Now I'm going to substitute in this value again to get the final answer. Alright, so we're going to do some more examples of expanding, and this example says expand log base 3 7x squared over 7. Okay, so this problem has all 3 properties in it, okay? So I want you to really focus on the terms. There's a 7 and there's an x squared. And those are multiplied together. And there's a y in the denominator, so that's division. Now when you get good at this, you can do it all in one step. But the first thing we're going to do is do the division part. So when we expand, we're going to write log base 3 in front of 3 different terms by the time we get to the end. But first, we're going to do the division part. And this would be 7x squared minus the log base 3 of y, because anything in the denominator is going to have a minus sign in front of it. Now these two have multiplication. So we need to expand those out with addition. Okay, so we're almost done. Now we need to do the power property and bring that 2 down front, and we're finished. Now for now, we can't solve this. We're just going to leave it as this expression. We're just practicing expanding it out. So remember, when I say expand or your homework says expand, you're going to have the word log in front of all 3 of these terms. Alright, I'm going to do another example. Sometimes it's already expanded out and you have to condense it back down to a single logarithm. And so sometimes the directions say to condense, and sometimes the directions say write as a single logarithm. And those mean the same thing. Alright, so this one starts out, and I'm using the natural log this time, and the properties are exactly the same, whether it's log or ln. That's supposed to be ln, and these are L's. Let me make them look more like maybe cursive L's. Okay, so this one's already expanded out, and I'm going to condense it. When I get done condensing, I just have the ln one time. Okay. Alright, so, and there was an x right here too that I left out. This is addition, so these two are going to condense with multiplication. And then this 2 has to go back to the exponent spots. And then subtraction means this y has to go in the denominator. So now this is completely condensed. It's the opposite of what I did on the last one. All right, one more concept. It's called the change of base formula. If you remember this, it'll help you a lot. It's kind of a secret weapon that you can use when you get stuck sometimes. If you have this logarithm and it has a number here and here, and there's not a way to enter this directly in your calculator for most calculators. Some of them will allow you to put a number here and here. But if you remember the change of base formula, you can just use your LOG button and do the log of this number divided by the log of this base number. So let's look at an example, and you'll have to do some of these in your homework. Again, normally there's not a way to enter this in your calculator, and this wouldn't come out to be an even number. So it's going to be a decimal number, so we can use the change of base formula, log of 11 divided by log of 6. You can also use ln. It'll come out to be the same way. Then just enter this in your calculator, and you'll get a decimal answer that you can round. Okay, that's the end of 7.5.